Hello again. Leon Morris in Jesus is the Christ, the I Am sayings. This is the last segment, the last 2 pages of that chapter. He is dealing with a summary of the I Am sayings now at this point. It's not easy, Morris says, to escape something of the same conclusion when Jesus says, "Then you will know that I am," 8:28 that is, and especially when he says, "Truly, truly, I tell you, before Abraham was, I am," 8:58. And to those 2 claims, there he has a lengthy footnote. C.H. Dodd, another great John scholar, C.H. Dodd talks about 8:28 this way. He says, "The ego eimi, I am, carries with it the solidarity of Christ with God." Barrett, on the other hand, another great John scholar, finds the expression to mean no more than Jesus is the obedient servant of the Father, and for this reason perfectly reveals him. Ego eimi does not identify Jesus with God, Barrett says, but does draw attention to him as the strongest in the strongest possible terms. Then another quote from Dodd, on this time 8:58, before Abraham was, I am. On this verse, Dodd points to the contrast of the verbs to come into being in the aorist tense and enai, to be, in the continuous present. The implication is that Jesus does not stand within the temporal series of great men, beginning with Abraham and continuing through the succession of the prophets, so as to be compared with them. His claim is not that he is the greatest of the prophets, or even greater than Abraham himself. He belongs to a different order of being. Now, Leon Morris goes on in his commentary. He is not to be thought of as simply another man. He was a man, but he was more, and passages like these bring out the more. It is significant that when the Jews heard Jesus say, "Before Abraham was, I am," they tried to stone him. They regarded the statement as blasphemous. Philip Harner links this with the attempt to stone Jesus in 1031, when he had said that I and the Father are one. They attempt to stone Jesus when he said ego eimi in 8:58, and also when he has said, "I and the Father are one," in 10:30. In this way, John indicates that the 2 statements are identical in meaning. As in 13:19, the absolute ego eimi in 8:58 expresses the unity of the Father and the Son. And that's all a quote from the I Am of the 4th Gospel by Philip Harner. Since stoning was a serious business, it is not easy to see why the Jews should have attempted it on these 2 occasions unless, as Harner suggests, they thought Jesus guilty of blasphemy. His claim was far-reaching. We should also notice the series of references to I am at the time of the arrest. Jesus twice elicited from the soldiers the information that they were looking for Jesus of Nazareth. That's John 18:5 and 7. And both times he responded with, I am. In between, John has another I am, in which he tells his readers that when Jesus said to them, I am, they went away backward and fell to the ground. 18:6. John pictures a scene in the gloom of the garden, imperfectly lit by the torches carried by the arresting posse, but instead of the terrified fugitive they expected would be hiding in the shadowy recesses of the garden, the soldiers find themselves confronted by a majestic figure who advances to meet them and addresses them in the language of deity. Once again, John is saying something to his readers about Jesus' kinship with the Heavenly Father. This is not the speech or the action of one who is nothing more than just another man. The falling to the ground seems to be John's way of saying that there was a special significance in the words that the soldiers reacted like men in the presence of deity. John has I am again when Jesus says, "Where I am, there also will my servant be." That's John 12:26. And when the blind man, to whom Jesus had given sight, affirms his identity, 9:9. But neither of these seems to be significant for our present inquiry. They are the normal human response in the situations described, and we should not look for more. But in the other passages, it certainly seems that John's use of the expression is distinctive. We get nothing like it anywhere else in the New Testament, except for a handful of passages in the Synoptics. Thus we must recognize that John is using the hallowed expression to bring out the truth that his master was one with a special relationship to the Heavenly Father, a relationship in which he must be thought of as partaking in the nature of deity, and a relationship which does not compromise the truth that there is but one God. I'll put in a link to the deity of Christ in the New Testament. This was an article that I had the opportunity to write some 25 years ago about the gradual unfolding of the deity of Christ. So it's very visible within the New Testament itself, from the earliest portions of the Synoptics through the Gospel of John. You have a gradual increase in the amount of light as to who Jesus really is. See you next time.